What it do, YouTube slash Patreon slash BitChute. Today's video, I want to talk about government corruption, and I want to talk about the Chicago fires that happened approximately about like 100 years ago, and basically why the government allowed that fire to consume the whole Chicago and Chicagoland area. Because basically, see, what people don't know is Chicago is a big place. When people hear Chicago, they only think downtown. Like, I hate to say this, I hate to sound like this, but when people hear Chicago, they only think of the white part. Like I said, I hate to sound racist, I hate to sound like that, but I gotta give it to you, brother. People, they don't really know the real Chicago is the natives, the melanated people, the dark-skinned people. I'm not taking nothing away from Europeans or nothing like that. I'm just giving it to you blood raw. Chicago has the most indigenous people in the whole United States in Chicago. Like, when you hear Chicago, people just think, oh, just the city downtown. No, Chicago is bigger than that. Chicago is the surrounding suburbs as well. Harvey, which is where I'm from, but Harvey is Chicago, okay? But when the fires happened, they rebuilt the city, and all of the Chicagoland area, which is still Chicago, all the surrounding suburbs, Harvey, Markham, Country Club Hills, Hazel Crest, Tinley Park, Oak Forest, you know, Joliet, that's where Al Capone hideout at. Joliet, Lansing, Homewood, that's where Juice WRLD from. Rest in peace, my nigga Juice WRLD. Just different places like that. All those little suburbs, I mean, they call them suburbs now, but all those were a part of Chicago. But when those Chicago fires happened over 100 years ago, they rebuilt the city, and what the whole point of that was to isolate Chicago from those surrounding so-called suburbs. I keep saying it because they call them suburbs now, because that was all a part of the government corruption to basically take all the money. So Chicago is a big place. It's the Mecca, right? It attracts people there to it, right? So Chicago, when the fires happened, they rebuilt the whole city. They rebuilt the whole Chicagoland area and the suburbs, and they basically, it's government corruption, like under the book shit, where they didn't want Harvey and Markham and Hazel Crest and all those places. They didn't want that to be part of Chicago. They wanted to isolate Chicago to its own thing and isolate those surrounding suburbs, so basically to steal money from different sectors of the government. That's why if you look up Harvey right now, Harvey, most 33% of the population there is poor. It's because Harvey it was a kingdom at one point in time. It was the kingdom, right? On the south side, real shit, it was a kingdom. That's why it's so fucked up right now, because basically they isolated it, and when they rebuilt the city after those fires, they stopped sending funds and government funds to Harvey. They stopped sending it to Markham. They stopped sending it to Tinley Park and Oak Forest and different places like that, to starve these places out, because they know this is where a lot of powerful energy grids and a lot of powerful bloodlines are from. Real shit. And this is why I don't go too deep into these stories and shit, because some people, I don't believe in conspiracies. How you gonna tell me? You know what I mean? I'm a real native from Chicago. People say, Harvey not Chicago. Harvey is most definitely Chicago. You don't know your history. You can ask any native that's from there. They will tell you. Harvey is most definitely Chicago. After the fires 100 years ago, the government, they wanted to cover up the true history of these places, the true history of Chicago. They wanted to cover it up because Chicago is huge. It spreads out very far. When most people think of it, they think of it, oh, it's just downtown. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's way bigger than that. But like I said, they wanted to isolate these surrounding suburbs, which they call them suburbs now, but it's all a part of the city. They wanted to isolate these places so they could starve them out, to get rid of these places so they could be forgettable, so people could forget the energy that was there, so people could forget the bloodline that started there. Real shit. Wake the damn up. Don't be fooled. Just like different places like Brazil, Puerto Rico, you know what I mean? Just different places. There's government corruption everywhere. There's a lot of hidden things that you won't know just looking on the outside, looking in. You see what I mean? That's why I say I'm from Chicago, because Harvey is Chicago. Markham, all that shit is Chicago. It's just after the fires, They had to rebuild the city, and they wanted to hide the true history of these places. Man, wake the damn up, man. That's why I don't go too deep into these stories. It's just too much to explain every time. You see what I mean? Real shit. And it's so much violence and corruption that's going on there because at one point in time, Chicago was one of the most richest places in the world. So to destroy that kingdom, because Chicago was a black kingdom. When I say Chicago, I mean all those places, you know what I mean? It was a black kingdom ran by a black queen. Chicago had the first educational system. Chicago had the first, we had the first of everything. We had everything, right? When I say we, I mean my ancestors, our immediate ancestors that was there, like the older generation, like 1920s, 1910, and 1800s and shit. All that shit was kingdoms. All those so-called surrounding suburbs, Harvey, Markham, those were kingdoms. In Chicago, the city, that was the main kingdom. That was the main throne. And all the surrounding ones was surrounding, like, basically like just surrounding kingdoms that surrounded Chicago. But they burnt the city down on purpose 100 years ago to rebuild it, to get rid of those kingdoms, to destroy those bloodlines. That's why so much poverty, that's why so much violence, that's why so much shit going on in the city, because people don't know this true history. Ain't nobody gonna come out and tell you this true history, and if they did, they probably got attacked by the government. But like I said, I'm here to raise the consciousness and the vibrational pitch of my people, so I don't give a damn. I'm gonna come out with this information. If you don't know this information, you know it now. You can go look it up. Go look it up. Chicago fires. Go look it up. They're not gonna tell you this information because it's under the books. This is real shit. This is real shit. Real talk. All that shit. Chicago is a very, very big place. When you hear Chicago, you just think, oh, just a city, downtown. No. Chicago is way bigger than just downtown and the inner city. It spreads out way further than that. But they're not gonna tell you that. They don't want you to know that. It's full of resources, it's full of everything, but it was destroyed. All our riches was taken and stripped from us. So they could basically starve us out and kill off a special bloodline. Does that make sense, right? So just to touch on that, just to let you know about that history, you know, because most people would ask me because people would ask me like, where exactly are you from in Chicago? I would tell them Harvey. And they'd be like, that's not Chicago, it's most definitely Chicago. That's the real Chicago. You see it? But you're not gonna know that because you don't know this history. I know my history. Trust me, my mom, my dad, they know their history, bro. I'm telling you, ask a real native that's from there, they know their history. So the thing about it, right, just like California is huge. You know what I mean? The Bay Area is huge. That shit spreads out so far wide. It be places you be at. Some people may consider it the Bay Area. Some people may not consider it the Bay Area. But you won't know that shit because it's a lot of history that you won't know about these places unless you're a real native that's from there. You see what I mean? Real shit. So with this government corruption, to throw off this type of information so this information never comes out, what they do is they hire these little puppets or these government agents to put this information out into the world, right? They hire these puppets to put this information out into the world. So you got these people called GMS. Excuse me. So no disrespect to GMS, because it's some decent GMS camps. But you got a lot of fake ones too. A lot of government agents, they work for the government and they here to spread fear. They talk about the RFID chip, they talk about the vaccination shot, shit like that. A lot of that shit real. They talk about the information in the Bible about the Israelites and stuff like that. That information is true, but the reason why their videos get pushed so much is because they are part of like a military branch or ex-military branch of people that came together on some occult shit to spread this information to get you to look away from the truth. They don't talk about the truth about Chicago. They don't talk about the truth about California. They don't talk about the truth about Iowa or Ohio, Cleveland. They don't talk about that shit because they don't want you to know the real history behind these places. Cleveland, I love Cleveland. Cleveland is my second home. Huge. Cleveland spreads out so far. Even the so-called surrounding suburbs of Cleveland, that's still Cleveland. When these government organizations destroyed the city, they wanted Cleveland to be isolated from these surrounding suburbs to make it seem like those suburbs wasn't Cleveland, but all that shit is Cleveland. They disconnected it and they called it something else to make people think, oh, this is a different part. of the city. No, it's all the same shit, just like Chicago. And the surrounding suburbs around it, they call it a suburb, but it's not a suburb. It's far from a suburb. It's all Chicago. When they rebuilt the city, they wanted to isolate those surrounding suburbs because it was too much resources and too much powerful just information going from the city to just everywhere, just like a big ass network of things that was happening. You see what I mean? They wanted to disrupt that, so they split the city up. They split it up to, oh, this is this sector, this is that sector, this is that sector, this is that sector, but it's all the same shit. You know what I mean? It's just different locations, different geography, and, you know, different shit like that. You get what I mean? But it's all the same shit. You see what I mean? So that's why I say Chicago, because Chicago is a big ass place. Real shit. Wake the damn up. So, like I was saying, these GMS people, they spread disinformation and they spread fear to throw you off, so you don't never really wake up to the real truth of what's going on. Like, a lot of people live in different places, but they don't even know the fuck they live at. They don't even know the true history around the places that they live in. You see what I mean? They just say, oh, I heard this, I heard that. But they don't know their true history because it's all been washed down. It's all been, you know, whitewashed and shit like that, you know, and watered down, because that's what the government does. They pay people to do that shit. And it was just one GMS faggot, you know what I mean? You know, a motherfucker ripped me off and shit like that. And when I catch him, I'm gonna beat the shit out you. You know who I'm talking about. When I catch you, boy, it's cracking. It's cracking. You know what time it is. I know where you be at. I'm gonna beat the shit out you. You know what time it is, boy. Gang shit for real. This is not a game. This is not a gimmick. I really do this shit for real. I don't bother nobody. If this dude wants to bother me, pretend like to be a friend, really was a snake. Another government agent sent to infiltrate me to throw me off my path, but I know what time it is. Wake the damn up. More videos coming soon. I just wanted to touch on this topic. Beware of these so-called Israelite camps. A lot of them, they giving good information, but a lot of them spread false information with true information. So if you spread false information with truth information, it's still fake information because it's not 100% truth. You see what I mean? So wake the damn up. More videos coming soon. Real shit. All this shit was a ploy to destroy us. See, people don't know, America is stolen land. Just like all these other places, it's stolen land. So whoever wins the war or conquers the people, they rewrite the history. You don't know that? You don't know that. That's why they telling you, oh, Chicago is just this. It's just the city. It's just the city. It's nothing major. Chicago is this, it's that. No, it's big, it's huge ass place. But they separated it in sectors to isolate these different places, to make certain places more impoverished than others. Real shit, they still don't know the resources. I know what time it is. I'm from there. I'm from Chicago, so I know what time it is. Just like if you're from Cleveland. You know what I'm saying? You know what time it is out there. If you ever been to Cleveland and you see it, you know what time it is. They stealing all the resources from these places to isolate real shit. And it's all this shit going on in different places around the world. Whoever wins the war rewrites history. But I forgot you don't know that.